sports.
Was having a conversation with a texter about the California Classic, whether it's going to be at G1C this season. We don't know. At least not yet. We have not been told, or it hasn't come out, I should say. But when it does come out, we will definitely let everybody know. Obviously, this is our job. Everyone running around, and you might miss an announcement, something like that. We are here to keep an eye on all things Sacramento Kings as the flagship year home of the Beam team. But we have not heard anything yet. And when we hear something, we will for sure let you know. We touched on this to start the show, and there are a couple different ways that we are approaching this. But there were conversations last night after the draft lottery and the Kings not being able to hold on to their pick, it conveying to the Hawks, which at least it's over now. It is what it is. And whether or not the Kings, with their current situation, are in the worst position in the NBA. Kyle has cooked up a metric for this, but really, you know, you can go back and forth with whether or not you have a star, whether it just comes down to, do you have young talent? Do you have assets? Or do you have a superstar right now? Right? And I think the reason a lot of people, and we're going to try to make you feel better here, a little bit better. I think the reason a lot of people don't feel good about it is because off the top of my head, if you were to ask me, do the Kings have any of those three? I would say that they are 0 for 3, right? They don't have a superstar. I like Domantas Sabonis, but he's not a superstar. I don't even know if Donovan Mitchell's a superstar. So if I can't call Donovan Mitchell a superstar, that is no disrespect to Domantas Sabonis.
You're not making the Sabonis point. You're making there's only 8 of those in the league.
Sure. They don't have a superstar. I guess they do have assets right now. They do, as far as the first rounders are concerned. So they're not 0 for 3. Right now they're 1 for 2. And do they have young talent? They have young players, but when I think young talent, I think we're all talking about what the Thunder have, what the Rockets have, what the Spurs have, right? And I think outside of Stephon Castle, I think it even dries up a little bit for the Spurs. But they're essentially 1 for 3, and the one that they have, most teams do have that. They don't want to lose it. Everybody gets you have a certain amount of picks, and then you end up wheeling and dealing them for certain deals. So they have the one thing that everybody has, right? The other two, where you acquire those based on being good at your job, they do not have that. And that's why the dudes that were in charge are not in Sacramento anymore. They're not in Sacramento anymore. So I understand why people feel like the Kings are in a bad spot. They definitely could be in a better spot. That's for sure. Are they the worst spot in the NBA, though? I don't know that I'm willing to say that. Are there 2 teams worse? And obviously this is, you know, the literally the meme where you have the guy standing on the podium, the three Olympians or whoever standing on the podium, and the dude in the dude all the way in 10th place or whatever is popping the champagne. That's what it feels like. But you know, when this stuff gets a little out of hand and it turns into, no, this is the worst, it's not the worst, and we do have some exit strategies. So, Kyle, what are the kind of breakdowns that you came up with to make Kings fans feel better about their situation?
Well, they could be better or worse depending on where you stand on the debate.
Sure.
So, yeah, you mentioned the metrics that we're working with here. One is your star player. 2 is depth. You could also say young depth if that's something that's, something you value. And then the third one is future draft capital. I think those are 3 good gauges of the situation you're in. And we're not, Dave made the point like the Jazz have Danny Ainge. Okay, we're just talking about the situations themselves, not who's running the teams, not who's making the decisions, all the stuff like that. or contracts of the players that they have. So we can debate it later. But just purely based on those metrics, we'll start with number one, star player. Who are the teams who do not have a star player better than Domantas Sabonis? And the data we're pulling from is our Ringer top 100 players list that was updated at the end of the regular season.
Okay, I like that.
There are 12 teams that do not have a player better than Domantas Sabonis, according to the Ringer's rankings. Atlanta, Miami, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Joel Embiid's a weird one, Bulls, Hornets, Wizards, Raptors, all East teams, by the way, which tells me Sabonis might be a top 10 player in the East. Then in the West, the Jazz, the Rockets, the Pelicans, and the Blazers do not have a player as good as Sabonis, according to the Ringer's player rankings.
Right.
So the second one, depth, young depth, whatever you want to call it. I took of those 12 teams, how many of them have more total top 100 players than the Sacramento Kings on the Ringer's top 100 list? By the way, the Kings have 3. It's Sabonis, LaVine, and DeRozan.
Right.
3 teams have more than the Kings. The Rockets have 6. The Pelicans have 4. The Hawks have 3, but they didn't include Risache, so I feel like the Hawks checked that box of they should be ahead of the Kings. Tied with the Kings at 3 are the 76ers, the Raptors, the Bulls, and the Blazers. Them and the Kings all have 3 top 100 players of varying ages and skills, but 3 is just the barometer we're using. And the last one is future draft picks. Of the 9 teams that we still have left on the board, which ones have better future draft picks than the Sacramento Kings? And for that, I went to that Bobby Marks draft pick ranking that we've been talking about, which is a couple weeks ago, Bobby Marks ranked every team in the league's future draft picks for the next 7 years and who has the best and worst situations. And the only teams better than the Kings of our 9 are Brooklyn, Utah, Charlotte, and Washington.
Right.
Now you can debate whether or not those teams will be better or worse than the Kings. You know, that's up to us to debate. Are the Kings in a better spot than the Hornets, despite the Hornets having better draft picks? Are they in a better spot than the Wizards, despite the Wizards having better draft picks? You know, there's room for debate there. But definitively, we can conclude there are 5 teams who are either in just as bad of a situation or worse than the Sacramento Kings. So, yay for the Kings. There are 5 teams that are either just as screwed or worse than the Kings.
And those teams are?
Equally as bad, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Toronto Raptors, the Chicago Bulls, and the Portland Trail Blazers. The only one team I can definitively say is worse off than the Sacramento Kings, without question, the Miami Heat. That is the only team I can definitively conclude 100% Miami is in a worse spot right now than the Kings.
Based on your method.
Based on the data that we have put together here, the only team based on this data I can conclude is 100% worse off than the Kings is the Miami Heat.
Which is so crazy to me, and I appreciate you kind of putting that together. And I think it's a fine method, and I think it's a fine equation and a fine metric. I just don't think it's the Miami Heat.
Is that because you think they have a better path to acquire a superstar?
I think it also comes having assets that you're not. It also comes down to what you're willing to do and not willing to do. The Miami Heat have a path. They're just they're just being stubborn and refusing to take that path. Now, look, I don't know that Jovic, I know we kind of joke because if you sound like Jokic, you're just going to have good value. You got Jovic, you got Jokic, you got Topic. I don't know that Nikola Jovic is really, you know, he's 6'10", he's just one of these young guards. I think offensively, he's got a ways to go. But again, being 6'10" and 21, you know, kind of a Denny Abdia type guy, even though Denny's way better offensively, I think he's got value. But to be fair, if Bam is your dude, Bam is your dude. I don't know that Bam is, you know, is he overrated, underrated, properly rated? I think now I think he was overrated. I don't think he is anymore. Tyler Hero is confusing as hell.
Yeah.
Right? and we can't move Tyler Hero. Okay, don't move him. So I think it comes down to your point, Bam is good. Tyler Hero is now 25 and going to be 20. Are you going to be elite or not?
And is 2 years away from free agency?
Right. Tyler or Andrew Wiggins is Andrew Wiggins. Terry Rozier forgot how to shoot a basketball. Duncan Robinson was good for like 2 years, and I think he's about to be off his deal. Jaime Jaquez is another untouchable for them.
He had a rough year, though.
He did. So I think that you might be on to something because
they also have not a lot of draft flexibility.
Right. And the way I would look at it would be the same way I'm looking at the big three conversation with the Kings. Domantas Sabonis, Trae Young, and Zach LaVine is not a scary big three. Based on what the Heat have and why the reports are that they're all in on Kevin Durant. So at that point, goodbye, fine. Jaime Jaquez can go for KD. You look at it and you say, okay, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, and KD is and let's answer this question on the other side. Out of those two big threes, the one that we created with the Kings and the one that we created with the Heat, what is scarier? And honestly, scarier versus are either of them contending? Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Time to check out Capital Casino.